False Positive was directed by John Lee and is the latest A24 movie to be released. If I'm being completely honest, I had no idea this movie was even being released before it dropped on Hulu. It wasn't on my radar whatsoever, and not a single time did I hear anyone even mention it. Not until I decided to open up Hulu one day and saw it on the home screen, which was odd. Usually, no matter how small of a movie it is, if it has the backing of A24, one of the most highly regarded yet memed production companies out there, I'm usually pretty aware of it. So once I knew this movie was in existence, I was eager to check it out. Even if not every A24 film has been my thing, I always tend to give them a chance out of pure curiosity. Even though I can so easily pick apart movies like Hot Summer Nights and It Comes at Night, even though I've been known to make fun of their fan base quite a bit, and even though a lot of their lesser-known output is absolute garbage, I still find myself drawn to everything A24 has their name attached to. And so I finally sat down to watch it with my girlfriend, and False Positive was certainly an experience. False Positive immediately gets you in an uncomfortable mood. Right from the get-go with this one, you're put on edge. At first you think it's all part of the plan, this is somehow intentional, and you just have to get used to it. As a comparison, for as much as I like Midsommar, that movie took a little bit of time to get fully settled into. But with False Positive, there was not a single second of where it ever clicked or it ever made sense. Not once did this movie start to pick up. Not once were the gears starting to turn. This entire movie just feels stuck in clutch and doesn't ever attempt to get out of it. The performances are some of the absolute worst I've ever seen in a serious horror movie like this. Ilana Glazer does absolutely nothing here. It baffles me beyond belief how lifeless her performance is. Not a single time was she convincing or even portrayed a single ounce of emotion. She seemed to be directed in a way that she was being told not to react to anything. Her performance is so mind-bogglingly bad that there is no way this wasn't done intentionally. And Jesus Christ, was that a botched decision. She was abysmal. Completely terrible. Pierce Brosnan was also completely atrocious in this movie. I can't tell you too much about his character, but his completely unconvincing accent and just overall ridiculously corny performance made no sense within the context of the movie. He was supposed to be this sort of so friendly and perfect that it's creepy, but he just came off as Pierce Brosnan doing a weird accent. Again, he wasn't convincing in the slightest and added absolutely nothing to this movie with his dumpster fire of a performance. It was abundantly clear from the very beginning of False Positive that John Lee wanted to emulate Ari Aster-style filmmaking so badly. This is embarrassingly ripping off Ari Aster. I haven't seen a movie that wants to be something else so badly in a really long time. From the score that very obnoxiously plays over every other scene when it's something completely normal, there will be random batshit insane sequences that make no sense within the already thinner than a straw plot. Even the way the film is shot and edited is so clearly trying to emulate Aster's style. And John Lee is absolutely not Ari Aster. He does not have any of that man's creativity, knack for getting unconventional scares, and some of the strongest world building in all of horror cinema. None of that is here. This movie is just a cheap imitation of that, and it's made abundantly clear from the opening scenes. The movie also isn't unsettling or scary in the slightest. That may be too subjective of a thing to point out, but for me, they weren't even trying with some of these forceful, tense moments. This most definitely has to do with the awful script. The dialogue and story of this film are on a whole other level of garbage. It has never been way more clear to me that the person writing this movie has no idea what the hell they're writing about. Not one single time did the subject matter feel important as the movie thinks it does. The plot twists and different story threads are so obvious. The story is so all over the place that it's almost impossible to follow what's going on. It isn't smart, it's just bad filmmaking, and it was actively pissing me off how straight up terrible this script was. Also, the ending to this movie, are you kidding me? That was one of the most cartoonishly idiotic endings to a horror movie I think I've ever seen. False Positive is an embarrassment. Even if I can't quite call it one of the worst movies I've ever seen, it's a little too monotonous and kind of normally terrible for me to call it that. But when it's really bad, this movie is painful to sit through. This is a painfully bad movie. And when it's at its worst, it is very hard to sit through, and not in a good way. And at its best, it's just a muddled, boring nothingness of a movie. So for that, I'm going to give False Positive a very, very light D. Thank you so much for watching this review. Sorry it took me a little bit of time to get out. There's a lot of movies being released this past week or so, so I'm trying to get to all of them. I promise this isn't the only review that's going to be coming out in this short amount of time, so I will see you guys in a little bit with another review.